If I could nominate a theme that represents sentient life of all shapes and sizes, it would be loss. In one way or another, us humans are bound to lose something or someone, and that's why it's such a common theme in so many mediums. We all have stories to share about missing something, and they're all worth listening to. But to make an impact on an audience, it's about how well you execute and present those memories. Röki, developed by Polygon Treehouse and published by United Label, talks much about loss, but looks for resolution and hope wrapped in a Scandinavian folklore blanket. Röki is a point-and-click adventure game in which the player is placed in an unknown land and progression occurs through interaction with the environment and the characters they meet along the way. In this case, the player assumes control of a little girl named Tuv, the big sister of a young boy named Lars, who's taken away by a giant black creature that also destroys their home in the process, and now it's up to Tuv to save him and reunite their broken family. Through a forest of freezing cold and plentiful use of folklore, Tuv has quite the adventure ahead of her. Now, it would be a disservice to talk about Röki without first bringing up its gorgeous visuals. It's really lovely, and I admit I was thoroughly impressed with the lighting, clean textures, and cinematography of the scenes I walked through. As Tuv visited a rundown church, or as I guided her through the frozen lair of the distant mountain, each camera angle brought a sense of scale to the world I was exploring. Even the simplest of rooms were just pleasant to observe. They weren't kidding, a light shaft really does make things prettier. Animations complement the game style well, with expressive emotes that bring life to the world I was interacting with, and it really helped that the game maintained a fluid 60 frames per second no matter the scene. Speaking of interaction, there are plenty of things to pick up and a few puzzles to solve in the frozen forest of Röki. The core gameplay loop revolves around finding items to unlock the next area or story beat, and you'll find a lot of things to work with. This also means you do need to think outside the box, because not every tool will work in the same place you found it. A common problem with point-and-click adventures is that sometimes the solution can be a little obtuse. Thankfully, Röki is not all that difficult. As a matter of fact, simply clicking on the left analog stick will cause all interactable items in a room to flash, and that alone cuts out the really annoying middleman of dragging every single item onto every single clickable surface in hopes of finally progressing. Make no mistake, Röki is not a difficult game, and heck, there's no fear of dying at all. This is a game I could recommend to just about anyone, from the core gamer to the avid Temple Run fan. I love point-and-click adventure games, but the frustration of obtuse puzzle design has kept me away from the genre for quite a while. And this is why I enjoyed my time with Röki so much, because I didn't have to spend hours and hours struggling and trying to find a solution. Switching over to the setting, I'll be honest, my knowledge of Nordic folklore starts and stops at Hilda, but I do have an appreciation for the many portrayals I've glanced at over the years. Röki puts all this stuff at the very center, as you interact with trolls, which are funny-looking monsters and guardians that tower over little Tuv. But this game wouldn't be a stylized adventure about loss without adversity. For Tuv, it's about losing her mother. For Tuv's father, it's all about losing his beloved wife. The game presents these themes through the story about a forest guardian who was banished by her siblings for conceiving a child with a human. But when I think about how the story beats were used in conjunction with the folklore, I think this could be a story told by just about anything and anyone. So no, it wasn't the story beats that kept me going, but rather it was the pacing. Röki is the first game I've played in a while that I felt did not overstay its welcome. Challenges came and went, characters were introduced with their purpose, and then they left when they were no longer needed. In an era of chunky narratives, this was a really nice surprise. Röki does its best at being an adventure game that anyone can pick up and play. Yes, it's a safe play, but it's one that I appreciate. Its lack of violence is like a breath of fresh air for me, and by keeping a consistent pacing with this narrative, and by not being overly difficult, that means that I'm happy to recommend this game for all to play.